When Hurricane Melissa hammered Jamaica in October 2025, most people expected the familiar chaos that follows a major Caribbean storm. Homes would flood, roads would wash out, and communities would spend days or even weeks trying to return to normal. But nobody, not even the most seasoned emergency responders, saw what was coming next. A few days after the storm had passed, while Jamaica was still clearing uprooted trees and broken power lines, a strange and unsettling video began circulating online. It didn't show the usual hurricane destruction. Instead, it revealed something people had never witnessed before. The ground itself seemed to be crawling. A thick, dark, moving layer covered the roads and yards and content. Manchester, creating an image so bizarre that thousands of people rewatched the video again and again in disbelief. At first glance, it looked like the earth had cracked open and released a living, shifting carpet of tiny black creatures. Many people thought they were looking at millions of tadpoles pouring out of the ground. Others insisted it wasn't natural at all, describing the scene as apocalyptic, supernatural, or even a warning sign of something catastrophic happening under Jamaica's soil. The disturbing sight triggered online theories within hours. Some believed underground caverns had burst open during the storm, releasing whatever had been trapped below. Others guessed that chemical contamination had mutated local creatures. There were even whispers about biblical plagues, ancient spirits, and government experiments gone wrong. Social media amplified the mystery, and soon the clip was being shared across TikTok, WhatsApp, and news pages throughout the Caribbean. The truth, however, was far less mysterious, though no less troubling. The video captured a massive migration of cane-toed tadpoles, a creature Jamaica has been battling since the 1800s. And while the footage seemed like something straight out of a science fiction movie, it was actually the result of a perfect storm created by nature, climate change, and a decision made nearly 2 centuries ago. To understand how this moment happened, you have to go back to 1844, when cane toads were introduced to Jamaica. At that time, sugar was one of the island's biggest industries, and pests were eating through cane fields at an alarming rate. Someone believed that bringing in cane toads, already used in other countries to control insects, would save plantations from collapse. The idea might have sounded logical back then, but it became one of the most damaging ecological mistakes in Jamaica's history. Cane toads are incredibly adaptable. They reproduce aggressively, thrive in warm climates, and have toxic skin that makes them nearly impossible for most predators to eat. In Jamaica's environment, they found paradise. With known natural predators to keep them in check, their population exploded. What people didn't realize in the 1800s was that a single female cane toad can lay up to 30,000 eggs at once. Multiply that by thousands of females across the island, and you get a population capable of overwhelming any ecosystem. Hurricanes, surprisingly, make things even worse. Heavy rainfall fills surface ponds, ditches, and roadside drains, but also fills underground cavities hidden within Jamaica's limestone bedrock. Limestone doesn't absorb water like soil. Instead, it forms pockets and channels beneath the surface where stormwater collects. When a hurricane delivers massive amounts of rain over a short period, it creates hundreds of temporary breeding sites, both visible and hidden. For cane toads, this is the ultimate breeding opportunity. Eggs laid during the storm find themselves in warm, still, nutrient-rich water that speeds up development. Within days, thousands of eggs hatch into tiny tadpoles, all competing for survival in pools that were created by the storm and will disappear just as quickly. That is exactly what happened after Hurricane Melissa. When the immediate flooding began to retreat, those temporary pools started drying out faster than expected. Tadpoles instinctively began searching for deeper or more permanent water sources. But because their pools were shrinking from all directions at once, they didn't scatter. They moved together in huge waves. Their movement created the illusion of a living ground, a shifting dark mass that rolled over the landscape. The viral footage captured these desperate tadpoles traveling across freshly soaked soil and roads, their bodies glistening in the light as they pushed forward in search of water. But their struggle was doomed from the start. cane-toed tadpoles cannot survive outside water for more than a short period. Jamaica's heat, even after a storm, is unforgiving. Most tadpoles died within hours, their journey ending before they found a safe pool. While the immediate spectacle was disturbing, it revealed something deeper about Jamaica's ecological reality. Cane toads are now one of the country's most problematic invasive species. Their toxin is strong enough to kill dogs, cats, and native wildlife. If the poison gets into someone's eyes or on a broken skin, it can cause serious irritation or worse. They compete with native frogs, birds, and reptiles for food. They overwhelm breeding grounds. They eat almost anything they can swallow, including insects, small animals, and even other toads. Because they reproduce so quickly, controlling their numbers has become nearly impossible. Climate change adds an extra layer of difficulty. Jamaica is experiencing more frequent heavy rainfall, longer warm seasons, and stronger storms, all conditions that boost cane toad reproduction. Every major hurricane becomes an accelerator, increasing their numbers and expanding their reach. Scientists in Jamaica and abroad have been studying the cane toad problem for decades, trying to understand whether local predators might eventually adapt. In Australia, for example, some snake species have evolved smaller heads and narrower jaws, preventing them from trying to swallow large, poisonous adult cane toads. Some birds have learned to flip the toads over and eat only the non-toxic parts. But these adaptations took many generations to develop, and there is no guarantee Jamaica's native species will evolve in the same way. Evolution doesn't operate on a schedule that humans can control. While some Jamaican predators occasionally eat small cane toads or tadpoles, none have evolved defenses strong enough to reduce the population significantly. Despite the challenges, communities across Jamaica have been making small attempts to control cane toad numbers. Night hunts, organized in certain areas, help reduce adult populations. Schools teach students how to identify tadpoles and avoid dangerous contact with toxins. Environmental groups track sightings to map out hotspots. These efforts help at the local level, but the national picture remains overwhelming. The viral tadpole incident only emphasized how deeply rooted the issue has become. One storm created thousands of temporary breeding pools, and the aftermath released tens of thousands of tadpoles in a single parish. Multiply that across the island, and it becomes clear that local interventions alone cannot solve the problem. Still, the mysterious footage sparked an unexpected moment of learning. Teachers used the video to explain invasive species and how human decisions from long ago can affect modern ecosystems. Climate scientists used it to highlight how storms can trigger ecological reactions that people rarely see. Communities discussed how water movement, limestone geology, and rapid breeding patterns can create events that look supernatural but have scientific explanations. In a way, the event pushed people to take a closer look at their environment, not with fear, but with curiosity and awareness. Even though the mass of tadpoles disappeared within days, the cane toads remain, continuing a cycle that has shaped Jamaica's ecosystems for generations. With stronger storms expected in the coming years, events like this could become more common, reminding the island that nature reacts in ways that are not always predictable. What looked supernatural was, in reality, a window into how delicate Jamaica's environmental balance truly is and how quickly it can shift. The aftermath of the viral tadpole migration forced Jamaica to look deeper into how storms, climate change, and human choices intersect in ways that people rarely think about. While many Jamaicans had heard about cane toads before, few truly understood the scale of their impact or the conditions that helped their population explode. Hurricane Melissa brought that reality to the surface in the most dramatic way possible. As the clip spread around the world, people from different regions sent messages expressing shock, curiosity, or concern. But for scientists and environmental authorities in Jamaica, the video confirmed something they had suspected for years. Climate patterns were creating the perfect stage for invasive species like the cane toad to expand even more aggressively. Every intense weather event was not just damaging homes and infrastructure. It was reshaping the island's ecological systems, sometimes in ways that would not show up until days or weeks after the storm had passed. The tadpole migration was one of those delayed effects, and it revealed how deeply interconnected Jamaica's natural environment truly is. To fully grasp why events like these are becoming more common, it helps to understand how Jamaica's landscape works. Much of the island, especially inland communities like Manchester, sits on limestone, a type of rock that forms natural underground channels and pockets. These pockets store water temporarily after heavy rainfall. When a major storm like Melissa dumps enormous amounts of rain in a short period, these underground reservoirs fill quickly, creating hidden pools. Cane toads are opportunistic breeders, and they take advantage of any available water. They don't need stable ponds or rivers to reproduce. Any shallow water, as long as it lasts long enough for eggs to hatch, becomes a breeding site. When underground pools suddenly dry up, which often happens after the storm clouds clear, tens of thousands of tadpoles find themselves stranded. Their movement is not coordinated but instinctive, driven by the need to survive just a little longer. This natural instinct, multiplied by the sheer number of tadpoles that emerge after a hurricane, creates the illusion of a living ground, which is exactly what millions saw online. As unsettling as it looked, the mass migration highlighted a problem Jamaica has been grappling with for decades: how to manage an invasive species that is perfectly adapted to the local climate. Cane toads are resilient, quick to reproduce, and highly toxic, making them difficult to control. Their toxin is designed to deter predators, and for most Jamaican animals, it works too well. Dogs often die after biting an adult toad. Birds and reptiles suffer severe reactions. Even humans risk harm if the toxin enters cuts or touches the eyes. Because of this, the natural checks and balances that would typically keep an animal population under control do not apply here. There is no widespread predator that can reliably reduce cane toad numbers. Their eggs, tadpoles, and adults all carry levels of toxin, though the tadpoles and young toads are less potent than the adults. Still, the danger remains. As a result, the population grows steadily whenever moisture and temperature conditions favor breeding, which happens more frequently as Jamaica experiences wetter rainy seasons and stronger storms. Community-led efforts to manage the cane toad population have increased over the years. In some parishes, residents organize night hunts where adults collect and safely remove the toads from around homes and farms. Environmental groups have launched awareness campaigns, teaching people how to identify toad eggs and avoid contact with toxic adults. Schools use the topic to introduce students to the concept of invasive species, explaining how animals introduced from other parts of the world can disrupt entire ecosystems. These efforts are valuable, but they only address part of the issue. Jamaica's cane toad population is not concentrated in small pockets. It is spread across the island, particularly in warm, moist regions where food is plentiful. And with each hurricane season creating more temporary breeding pools, local interventions struggle to keep up with the speed of reproduction. Scientists have been exploring whether Jamaica's native predators might eventually adapt the way some Australian species have. In Australia, certain birds learn to flip cane toads onto their backs and eat only the parts that contain lower levels of toxin. Some snake populations gradually evolve smaller heads, preventing them from swallowing large, poisonous toads. These examples give some hope, but adaptations like these require many generations to develop. The process is slow, natural, and not guaranteed. Jamaica's wildlife is still in the early stages of dealing with the cane toad invasion, and there is no clear evidence yet of widespread evolutionary changes. Some predators may nibble on tadpoles or very small young toads, but adult toads remain deadly to most animals. Until a natural predator emerges or adapts significantly, humans remain the island's primary control mechanism. The incident with the tadpoles served as a stark reminder of how human decisions from long ago can echo into the present. When cane toads were introduced in the 1800s, people saw them as a quick fix for agricultural pests. No one predicted the long-term ecological consequences. At the time, discussions about invasive species, biodiversity, and environmental balance were not part of public conversation. But today, those topics shape environmental policies around the world. Jamaica's experience with cane toads is not unique. Many countries have faced major ecological disruptions due to introduced species. For example, the mongoose introduced to Caribbean islands devastated bird populations. Rats brought on ships destroyed nesting habitats. Cats released into the wild wiped out small native animals. Each case offers a lesson about the importance of understanding ecological balance before making decisions that affect entire habitats. In the days after the viral video, experts used media interviews and public forums to explain the science behind the phenomenon. They emphasized that while the sight was shocking, it was not supernatural or mysterious. It was the result of nature reacting to extreme conditions created by a powerful storm. They noted that similar events have been observed in other regions, but rarely captured so clearly on film. The video provided a rare glimpse into a hidden part of amphibian life that usually unfolds away from human eyes. For many Jamaicans, this was the first time they truly saw how quickly nature responds to environmental stress and how storms can trigger unusual biological events. However, even with greater public understanding, concerns remain about the ecological future of Jamaica. Climate change predictions suggest that the island will face more frequent heavy rainfall, hotter temperatures, and unpredictable weather patterns. These conditions create ideal breeding environments for invasive species like the cane toad. If nothing is done on a national scale, events like the mass tadpole movement could become more common. Not because the toads are becoming more dangerous, but because the climate is becoming more suitable for their reproduction. The government may eventually need to develop a coordinated national strategy, combining scientific research, community action, and environmental monitoring to manage the population effectively. Another layer to this issue is how quickly misinformation can spread during unusual natural events. The video's initial impact online was shaped not by science, but by speculation. People created stories, theories, and explanations that fed into fear and confusion. In moments like these, credible communication becomes just as important as environmental management. When communities understand what they are witnessing, they respond with awareness rather than panic. Clear information helps people take safe actions, such as keeping pets away from toad-filled areas or avoiding direct contact with tadpoles and toad toxins. The more Jamaicans learned about the real cause of the tadpole movement, the more the situation shifted from fear to education. The video became a teaching tool. Families talked about the environment. Teachers used it in classrooms. Scientists cited it in discussions about invasive species and climate impacts. What started as a frightening mystery turned into an opportunity for learning and awareness. It also reminded people that Jamaica's environment is constantly shifting, and understanding these changes is crucial for protecting ecosystems and communities. Events like this highlight how nature is not static. It reacts, adapts, and responds to the pressures placed upon it, whether those pressures come from storms, climate shifts, or species introduced by humans. The cane toad problem is a symbol of that complexity. It shows how delicate ecosystems can be and how quickly balance can be disrupted. While the tadpole migration lasted only a few hours, its impact on public awareness will likely remain. It encouraged Jamaicans to look closer at their environment and recognize the interconnected forces that shape it. The tadpoles dried up, the video faded from social media's trending pages, and life in Manchester slowly returned to normal. But the underlying issue remains. The cane toad population continues to grow, shaped by weather patterns and environmental conditions. As storms become more intense and rainfall becomes less predictable, similar incidents may appear again, each one reminding the country of how close the connection is between climate, ecology, and human choices. The viral video was not just a moment of shock. It was a window into Jamaica's environmental future, offering a glimpse of the challenges and questions the island will need to confront in the years ahead.